Hello, everyone, and welcome to our new Oxygen XML live event. I'm Alim Belu, and as always, I'll be your host for today's session called AI at Work, Elevating Your Documentation Workflows with Oxygen AI Positron. And joining us today is Sorin Carbonaru, software developer at Syncrosoft. And over the next hour, Sorin will walk us through practical ways to integrate AI into your daily workflow, everything from using built-in AI-driven actions to efficiently managing content and structuring projects. So it's going to be a packed and insightful session, but before we dive in, here are a few things to keep in mind about today's event. The webinar is being recorded. The full recording will be available in the coming days on the event page at oxygenxml.com, along with Sorin's presentation slides. It will also be uploaded on our YouTube channel, Oxygen XML. If you haven't visited our channel yet, we highly recommend checking it after the webinar, of course, because it's a great resource packed with tutorials, feature demos, and other helpful videos. And as always, we also encourage you to ask questions throughout the session because we will be actively responding during the webinar. For this, we have behind the scenes Alex Gitianu. So you can do that via the questions panel in the GoToWebinar interface, and we'll also revisit your questions during the live Q&A session at the end, so everyone can benefit from that discussion. So this wraps up the introduction from my side. Now I am pleased to hand things over to Sorin Carbonaru, who will guide us through today's session. Take it away, Sorin.
Hello, everyone. It's been quite a while since my previous webinar, 8 months, 1 week and 3 days to be more precise. And today I have a new presentation for you, and let's get started. I want to first start by mentioning what has happened in the meantime since the previous webinar. We released 3 Positron versions, and we have a lot of things to cover. Then, as usual in my webinars, we're going to spend most of the time in the live demo. After that, I want to mention a few words about AI-generated content and style guide adherence, and then also share with you a few of our future directions. And as usual, we will end with the Q&A time. As mentioned, we released 3 versions since we last had a webinar. In versions 4.x, we added, for example, a RAG over published content. In my previous webinar, I talked about a RAG over the local project, and I kind of promised that we'll add RAG over published content. That's exactly what we did. So we kept our promise. Then we added a new category of actions called intelligent agents. And here you can find actions such as expand draft, create topics, fix validation problems, and we will see, I think, all of them in today's demo. We added new actions in other categories as well. We have a new action that suggests using reusable components, or another one for generating MathML based on a text description, which may be helpful for those of you working in, for example, mechanical engineering or maybe aerospace. You can now share a chat session, which is helpful for debugging purposes for those who develop and for those who use prompts with Positron, and also when having a webinar and you don't want to wait for the AI to finish the answer. And I will use this feature today. And you can now invoke Positron actions via an AI-powered XPath function from Schematron or XSLT or XQuery. And we also added numerous new functions. For example, you can now use the function that retrieves the location of the current editor, or we have another one for retrieving the content of a document. Using functions, you can now save documents, you can add topic references to the map, or maybe get the context of the selected topic reference in the map, and so on. Then we released version 5.0 of Positron in the standalone Oxygen. And along with this, we also released the first version of Positron in the Oxygen plugin for the Eclipse IDE. We added some new tools for analyzing, converting, and updating data using AI. You can now attach Word, PowerPoint, and PDF files in the chat, also in the configuration file of the generate documentation draft action. You can select resources to be excluded from the AI processing. For those of you using the OpenAI connector in the enterprise distribution, or for those of you using our Positron service, you can now use the reasoning models from OpenAI. In the enterprise distribution, you can also integrate with XAI Grok if you want to. Again, we added some new functions, for example, for validating the current editor or for checking the terminology, but only if you have the terminology checker add-on installed. We'll talk about this later also. You can, along with adding custom actions in Positron, you can now integrate custom functions, which can be used by the actions. And also you can create new AI service connectors. Via plugins and frameworks, you can distribute or filter AI actions, Positron actions. And finally, you can reference prompt files in the JSON definition of an AI action. That's because it was quite a nightmare to write prompts in a JSON property. And when I said finally, it's not that this is the final. These are all the new features and improvements. This is just the final one in my slides. There are also other that you may want to check. And I want to make an important remark right now. Many of the new features and improvements from Positron 5.0 will not be covered in this webinar, or even if I will cover some of them, I won't go into details. And that's because we already have a great resource. It's called the What's New video from the latest release. You can find it on our website. You can find it on our YouTube channel, and it's you can find great content there. It's well explained, so I don't think there's a need for me to reiterate that. I don't want to duplicate content. I want to give you something new, something that is not already covered in our resources. So I'm going to switch to Oxygen right now. And I want to avoid in my demo, I wanted to avoid simply throwing features and improvements at you. So that's why I try to create some sections, in a way, create a workflow. So we will start with creating documents, then talk about editing, about validation, about review, and we will end with a few words about how you can extend Positron. And for each of these workflow steps, I will give you several examples. So let's start by talking about how you can create documents with Positron in Oxygen. For example, you can directly go to the chat box and ask the AI to do that for you, because now the chat has some functions available that can do exactly that. I have a favorite prompt saved here. And here I tell the AI to write a tutorial about how to create a new author action in a framework in Oxygen based on the information from the local project. And as a project, I'm using the public version of our user guide. And if I send this request to the AI, I expect the AI to start performing RAG, and that's exactly what it did. So it found a couple of topics about the default author operations, how to create custom actions in a framework, and now it started generating the actual content. If the AI generates invalid data content, in our case, we also have a step of validating and correcting those mistakes. So let's see what the AI has in store for us right now. By the way, this is something I don't want to forget. The quality of the responses that you get and we all get from the AI services depends on a few factors. For example, it depends on the quality of the prompt. It also depends on the intelligence of the model. And this might be a breakthrough discovery, but I think that AI models started having moods because otherwise I cannot explain some of their behaviors sometimes when they usually give you good results and sometimes all of a sudden they give you a bad response. I will blame it on the fact that they started having moods. Okay, so now we have our result. This time the AI generated perfectly valid content. We can continue this interaction. For example, we can tell it to extract a list of 5 keywords and add it in this topic. And each time the AI saves content in our topic, you will see a see changes link. So for example, here on the second call, we get this see changes and we can see exactly what happened in this instance of calling the save document function. So this is one way of creating a topic, and now we have our DITA tutorial with step-by-step instructions for creating an author action. When you finish such an interaction, you will have to review the changes. You have this button down here, but you will also get prompted to review the changes when you try to start a new chat, which I did accidentally. I didn't really intend to do that at this moment in the webinar, but you can see the changes for all of the generated files. In our case, it's only one, and you can decide if you want to accept or reject the changes. Let's go and accept these ones. You may remember that I mentioned the intelligent agents section, and here we have another helpful action. It's called create topics, and when you use it, you will be prompted with a dialog box where you need to provide details about what you want the AI to generate for you. If you have these details in a file, you can simply attach that specific file using this action from here. But for the sake of moving faster, because there are a lot of things to cover, I will make use of the sharing chats feature, and I will improve a previous chat here, JSONic. Okay, so for this example, let's imagine I pasted this content in the dialog box, and I tell the AI that in Oxygen we have a new imaginary JSONic debugger perspective. I tell it what it does, how it works, I tell it that it's very similar to the other debugger perspectives that we have, like XSLT debugger and XQuery debugger. And I also instruct the AI to perform RAG only over the published content. That's because I wanted to showcase this RAG over published content feature. And if we look at the interaction that I had with the AI, we can see that here I invoke the create topics action, which in turn invokes a couple of sub actions. Let's call them agents. The first one generates the content and the storage location. And here we can see the AI performing the RAG over the web help documentation. It read the XSLT debugger perspective topic, the XQuery debugger perspective as well. Then when it generated the content, it went on and saved the content and fixed the validation problems. And this action will try to validate and try to save again the corrected content for a couple of times, which is exactly what it did here. So we try to save it for 2 or 3 times. And then at the end, it seems there still were a couple of minor problems. But nevertheless, it saved the content. Then it tried to figure out where to save, where to add a topic reference in the map, and it then saved this topic reference. So the location is after the anchor URL, which is the XQuery debugger perspective. And we can take a look at the map here. You notice the JSON debugger perspective topic here. This is the actual topic that it generated. And I also want to open one of the topics that were used for RAG, XSLT debugger perspective, for comparing the two. So for this XSLT debugger topic, we can see that the topic starts by telling a few words about what it does and how you can get to it. And then it presents the components, the menus, toolbars, XML and XSL source panes, and so on. Some resources here. And if we go back to the JSONic debugger topic, we can see that it has a very similar structure. Here you can see also the minor errors that the AI for some reason didn't correct, but now we simply deleted them and we have a valid topic. Again, the same structure, some details about the perspective, how you can get to it, the components, menus, toolbars, and here you can see the adapted content, JSON source pane, JSONic source pane, and so on, resources. So the AI did a good job at generating this topic about the JSONic perspective. And thirdly, another way of creating topics in your documentation is to start from a small draft. For example, I have this autocorrect in files draft. You can see it only contains a very, very small paragraph. I tell the AI that we have, again, a new imaginary action called autocorrect in files in Oxygen. It works similar to check spelling in files, showing an almost identical dialog box. And then I also provide a couple of related links. That's because the prompt of this action instructs the AI to perform RAG over any related links that can be found in this DITA draft. And when we use this expand draft action that I'm talking about, we get an interaction such as this one. We can see the AI performing RAG again over these links, so autocorrect and then spell check in files. And based on that content, it generated some new content, and we can take a look here at the expanded version. Again, in order to see if it did a good job or not, I will try to open one of the topics that it used in RAG. The check spelling in files topic starts with some information about how it works, where it can be found, and then down here you can see the available scopes and options that are available when using this spell checking files action. And then similarly, in the topic about autocorrect, we have the same structure, details about the action, how it works, where you can find it, and again, the available scopes and the available options. Yes, we don't have a placeholder for the image, but I don't think that's really a big deal. Other than that, it's a great looking topic, and it respects the structure of the other topic that we have in our user guide for a similar action. Now, so these were the 3 ways of creating documents that I wanted to demo. Now let's move on and talk about writing and editing. And let's clean the editing area a little bit, and let me open a new topic here, autocorrect dictionaries preferences. Okay. When going through the slides, I mentioned a few other actions, and I will demo them right now. First of all, I want to talk about the actions that suggest reusing content. We have this reuse category where you can find a couple of actions. For example, reuse product names, which will replace product names in the documentation with key references, such as this one from here. Or if you don't have a key for a product name, it will wrap the content with the keyword element. And you can see this action demoed in the What's New video. That's why I'm going to only focus on the second action, the one that proposes reusing elements or components. And here in the topic, I have a note about the fact that if you change any of the above preferences, you need to restart the application. And because this is true about many of our preferences pages, I expect, actually no, but let's say I expect that we already have a reusable component defined in a warehouse topic for usable components. So what I need to do is simply select the content and invoke this action, and in just a matter of seconds, the AI will propose a reusable component. So let's see what it proposed. This is the current version, and the AI proposed another note, a reusable component, which says the same thing but in different words. And yeah, this is how you can we can also notice the power of AI. It can find similar reusable components, even though maybe they use slightly different wording. And we can now apply these changes and have our reusable note referenced in our content. I also mentioned the fact that you can now attach Word files, PowerPoint files, and PDF files. And to demo this, I have another prompt saved here in my favorite prompts menu. So I tell the AI to create a new section in this topic where it should integrate a brief summary of the content from a Word file that I attached here in the chat using this attach actions from down here, but I think I demoed this in previous webinars. So I will simply send this request to the AI, and while the AI generates this, I want to show you the actual file that I use. I have it locally, but I will open it here in Word Online. So it's a file about that dictionaries, and you can see some content here about how it's structured, how it works, the data structures used internally, and so on. So now if we go back, the AI generated the content. Now we can reload this topic, and yeah, we can see these mappings that we also saw in the Word file, and some other information which was extracted from that file. By the way, the AI is able to also interpret images in Word files and in PDF files. So it reads both the text content and also the images. Moving on, I want to first of all accept the changes, yeah, and then I want to talk about how you can invoke positron actions using an XPath function. In a previous webinar, I think I demoed how you can use some other AI-powered XPath functions that we have available. And we have functions for validating the content. We have functions for transforming the content. You pass the content and the prompt, and then you get the transformed content from the AI. But now I want to show you how you can call on a positron action, one of these actions from here. So here in this schematron file, I have a rule, and I'm looking for topics that do not have a short description. I issue a warning, and I also define a quick fix for when this rule is activated. The quick fix is to call the short description positron action, and we do that by using this AI invoke action function. We pass the ID of the action as the first parameter. Then you can also provide an additional prompt if you need. I didn't need it. And the content over which the action will be executed. In my case, it's the topic element. So now if I go back to my sample and try to validate the content, we will get a warning from our schematron rule. And here we have our quick fix to call the short description positron action, which you can see here. And the AI generated the short description for us. And finally, for this writing and editing section in our workflow, I will also demo the formula equation action. By the way, until now, I only looked for actions here in the side view. You can also find them in the menu, but there are already quite a lot of categories and actions. That's why we added a way of quickly find the action that is of interest. Down here, you can see this magnifier, or you can simply go here in the chat box and press Control plus space, and you get this filter. You can filter the list based on the title of the actions and also based on the description. That's because you may not remember the actual title, but you may remember, I think it was something related to MathML or something like math, and you can start typing math. And because in the description of the action, we actually have MathML, we quickly found this action. It shows a dialog box where you need to provide the text description based on which the AI will generate the MathML structure. For this example, I will generate the PID control formula, where PID stands for proportional integral derivative. And I've heard it's very useful, for example, I think for autopilots and things like that. But what I wanted to mention is the fact that I wouldn't really enjoy writing all this MathML structure. That's why I'm glad the AI can do that for me. And now we can simply insert this formula anywhere in a valid position in our topic. And when I checked this generated formula against the actual formula, I think it usually was okay. It was the right one, the same thing. Now, moving on to our next step in the workflow, let's talk about validation. And for this, I need another sample, autocorrect preferences from here. Let's validate this. You can see I have a couple of errors down here and several warnings. If you used Positron by now, or maybe if you watched our previous demos, you may know that for each of this entry, for each of the validation problems, we have in the contextual menu this AI Positron fix action. But obviously this doesn't scale very well. That's why we created a new action called fix validation problems. So this takes the entire topic and all of the validation problems. It passes them to the AI model, and we expect the model to fix everything. Usually with this sample, the AI did exactly that. It fixed all of the problems. Only from time to time, it missed one of the problems. Let's see how it works in this moment. So now the AI regenerates the entire content while also trying to fix all the problems. Let's replace the content from here, and the validation is now successful. Still talking about validation in a way, I want to move to our fourth step in the workflow and talk about reviewing content. And firstly, I want to talk about reviewing terminology. And I need yet another sample from here. So here, if usually if you use the terminology checker, you may have the problems highlighted in the editing area, but I didn't want those to disturb us for the other examples, for the other use cases. But looking here in the terminology checker side view, which is contributed by the terminology checker add-on, we can see that I have an error here and some other warnings and information messages. And when you install both the terminology checker add-on and the AI Positron Assistant, the terminology checker add-on will contribute an action called fix terminology problems. And if we invoke this, we will get a very similar behavior to what we have seen previously with fixed validation problems. The AI will try to fix all of these issues. Now let's replace the editor content with the AI generated one. And if we go back here, this time the AI missed one of the problems. So we still have this information message about a phrase which is a bit longer, but I think you already got the point. Now, let me open another sample and act as if we got this for someone else in order to review it. This is a sample about, again, an imaginary framework that we added in Oxygen for structured product labeling, which is an XML standard developed by the US FDA. And here in this topic, I use a couple of quite big content references. So if we want the help of an AI service, we will need to somehow provide this content to the AI, because the XML looks like this. So there are simply content key references here. And for demoing one of the functions that we added in the previous releases, the one that is able to resolve this kind of references, I created a custom function here. It's called analyze modularity, and I've written a little prompt asking the AI to analyze the DITA XML topic for modularity. And here I provided this resolve DITA key or content reference function, with the help of which the AI will be able to actually expand these content key references from here. So let's go down here and use this analyze modularity action. And you can see that the first thing the AI did was to actually expand these con key refs. For example, this one from here was expanded to this big paragraph. And now that the AI knows, and let's say, if I can say that, it sees exactly what we see here in our WYSIWYG editor, is able to perform this modularity analysis. And you can see here that it suggests creating a special topic for actions in the SPL framework, or another topic for this editing profiling attributes content from down here. And with this, we're getting closer to the end of the demo. Let me clear the editing area once again. And let's talk about our last section, about how you can extend Positron. I think I already mentioned this when going through the slides, but I will mention it again if I didn't mention it then. You can already extend Positron, or you could before these releases, by creating custom actions, as the one that I demoed previously. Now, you can also extend Positron with custom functions, which can be used by actions, or by implementing some custom connectors to connect to other AI services than those that we provide out of the box. So for demoing a custom function, I actually wrote a small Java plugin, and really quickly, let me show you this function. So in Oxygen, we don't have, in Positron, we don't have such a function. I implemented it here. It's called open URL in editor. And the implementation is, the most important line is this one from here, where I simply invoke the open URL API that we have in our Oxygen SDK. And now with that function, I went on and used it in a custom function. And you may remember that I also mentioned the fact that from a plugin, or a framework, you can now contribute action, or you can also remove or filter some of the actions. And for contributing a new action or a set of actions via a plugin, you need to create a framework in the plugin called AI Positron Actions, and there you paste your JSON definitions. Here I have an action called find related topics. And down here, I'm using several functions. The first three of them are predefined in Positron, and the last one is the one that I implemented with this plugin. And now if we go back to Oxygen, and if I open this sample from here, I can use the find related topics action, which is added exactly how the terminology checker add-on added the fix terminology problems action. So now if I use this, the AI will try to find some other topics in our project about autocorrect, and I instructed it to open 3 of them in the main editing area, which is exactly what it did right now. And here you can see all the calls and the parameters for each of the calls, each of the opened URL. Now, when it comes to extending Positron by implementing custom connectors, there are 2 things I want to mention. If you want to connect to a service, to an AI service, which has an API that is different to the OpenAI's chat completions API, then you will have to implement that on your, I want to say on your own, but not 100% on your own, because we are also always available to answer your questions when you write to us via our support channels. But you would need to implement such a connector. Instead, or on the other hand, if you want to connect to a service which does have a similar API to the OpenAI's chat completions API, then what you can do is to install an add-on. You can go to help, install add-ons. I already have it installed, so I'll go here to manage add-ons. It's called Oxygen AI Positron Custom Connector. And unlike the built-in OpenAI connector, this add-on also supports the OAuth client credentials flow if you need it. And after you install this add-on, if you go to the Positron preferences, to this AI service configuration page, by the way, this is in the context of the enterprise distribution. So we are talking about enterprise Positron. Here in the connectors dropdown, you can find this custom AI service. And for this example, I configured the connector to connect to OpenAI. And now we can go here and start a chat with the AI by using our custom connector. And I think that wraps up everything that I wanted to show to you in the demo. Let me go back to the slides. Let's go full screen. A few words about the AI generated responses and style guide adherence. And there are 2 things I want to mention here. I want to talk about issue prevention and issue treatment. If you want to prevent, let's say, terminology problems or any kind of problems related to the style guide, what you could do is to distill the most important rules from your style guide, and then take those rules to the Oxygen's preferences. Here in the main preferences page, you find this context, And this context instructs the AI to do something something that it should do in all for all actions or chat interactions. So you can distill the most important rules from the style guide and paste them here, and then the AI should use them when generating content. If the AI still produces some mistakes, we need ways to treat the issues. One way you can do that is by using schematron rules. This is especially relevant for structure-related problems. And then with these schematron rules, you can apply fixed validation problems. We have seen that in action earlier. Additionally, you can write some terminology rules and use the fixed terminology problems action. Or if you still feel the need for something extra, you can, of course, define your custom actions, perhaps using some custom functions. Now, in regards to the future, I only mentioned here a few of our directions. We have implemented a connector for Google Gemini, which should be available in the next version. We are also working on a connector for Google Vertex AI. Then we are experimenting with what we like to call Positron Copilot that should give you suggestions based on your recent modifications in your topics. But we are still experimenting with this, so let's see where these experiments will lead us to. We are also working on a way to organize users for easier management. For example, you can create a team and add users to that team, and you can buy subscriptions for them or upgrade subscriptions and so on. And I know I mentioned this in previous webinars, but user feedback is very important for us, and I really mean that. I think user feedback and listening to your users, listening to the community is one of the most important ways you can make a product great. So we invite you to give us your feedback. Feel free to do that. Share with us any kind of feedback, positive feedback, negative feedback. Uh, we can handle everything, but feedback is good to get on the right track and to help our users with their needs. By the way, we greet you from the sunny and hot city of Craiova in southwestern Romania in Eastern Europe. This is where Oxygen XML editor and all of the other products and Positron is made. One last slide and we're done. I have several helpful resources here, and I actually highly recommend you to go and check them out. Here you can find a detailed list of what's new in each Positron version. You can find my previous webinar here. You can find the project that I used today. And at the end, I also added a couple of blog posts written by my colleague Radu Coravu. The first one is about how you can create custom actions, detailed instructions and information about this. And the second one is about how you can customize Positron for your DITA project. And I think Radu also covers here this topic of AI generated content and style guide adherence. Okay, so that being said, I want to thank you all for your attention, and I hope you found this presentation helpful. Now it's time for us to answer your questions. So, Alex, do you have the questions in front of you? Can you help us with that?
Hello, Sorin. Thank you for this very insightful conversation. And yes, we do have questions. And as it happens, you already answered some of them, but I will still um, go through them. So the first question was, can we educate AI Positron Assistant with our documentation standards, style guides, and guidelines? This helps to generate accurate and aligned content and can potentially avoid other checks. So this is so you addressed this part when you described how to distill and summarize the style guide and put them in the context area in Positron preferences. So there is no straightforward answer to this. It is a common need and requirement. And in theory, there are three possible approaches. So the first one is the prompt engineering, which you described, in which you put information directly into every request. You give instructions to the AI about how the content, the generated content, what rules it should respect. So that's the first approach, and it can be implemented at positron level. The second approach would be to try to fine-tune one of the LLMs on your style guide with your style guide. So out of the box, without any instructions, um, the AI will generate content that is tuned with the style guide. And the third approach is the one with Retrieval-Augmented Generation, in which whenever the AI needs to generate a short description, it will search to see how short description should be written. And sometimes you need to mix and match these. And we also recommend a more hybrid approach. The idea is that you have this AI, which is like Superman, and you have this urge to use Superman in all of your missions. But Superman also has its kryptonite, it hallucinates in this case. And you have a team, it's Justice League, you have other superheroes, so don't forget about them. You have, for example, schematron. So you can automate the style guide using schematron rules, using term checker, for example, the term checker add-on that Sorin presented earlier. There are others. There's Veil, if you want. There are other commercial checkers. So the idea is to use them together, right? So you have all these other checks. You put in the context in positron preferences all those instructions, the most important parts from the style guide. The AI will generate something that maybe 80% of the time it's okay, but when it does a mistake, there will be these other checkers that catch this mistake. And as you saw many times, positron will ask the AI to fix the mistake. And as something that it's new to appear in Oxygen, we hope to release it in Oxygen 5.1, in Positron 5.1. We are also working on a memory sort of thing. So you could say to the AI, remember not to use unordered lists, because we prefer to use ordered lists in our style guide. And that will be like another level that we will contribute to all of the AI interactions. There was this other question about can you edit existing topic using the AI? If you edit the existing topic using the AI, the current selection in the open topic is relevant, yes. Can you elaborate on this? In particular, I want to modify some attributes for elements. Well, yes, this can be done in a table column, but the corrected result always ends up in the wrong place. So this is it would be great to have some examples and to try them ourselves and see what happens when you start a conversation in the chat view. If you have a selection, the selection is passed, and afterwards on the response that the AI gives you, there will be a replace action. If you don't have any selection in the editor, then the action will be insert, and maybe that's the case when the inserted content that ends up in the wrong place. But we can think of a solution if we see some examples. Another question, how can we use the AI validation and other functions on large XML files? In general, how to work with large and larger XML files. So in the project view, there is a refactoring entry in the contextual menu, and in it there's an AI refactoring option. And from it, you can apply any or most of the positron actions on multiple files, the validation included. There will be a preview to inspect the changes. But yes. Okay. Yes, so this, and oh, we have more. Can we ask Positron to split up 2 large files into smaller manageable sections and combine and refactor at the end? And the question is yes, and we have a predefined action split topic, which will analyze a given topic, and if it contains multiple concepts, is not atomic, then it will split it in multiple topics, and afterwards you could inspect them and ask the AI for further refinements, for example, if you want. So Positron has access to the workspace, is able to read files, to save, to update files. So it should be able to perform such use cases. But I encourage you to give it a try, and if it doesn't behave perfectly, then just let us know so we can improve it. We have a very frequent release cycle for Positron, a new version every 2 months or so. So we'll be able to fix quite quickly and release. My own experience is that when XML files increase in size, the XPath and XQuery acting on them stalls at some point as consequence of needing load to full file instead of parsing section by section in the large file. Yes, so obviously it will take longer, and depending on how large the file is, you might need to maybe define some pipelines, but we can continue the conversation on the emails, and if you write us an email, we can tell you what other direction we have been exploring. So maybe you can, these Sorin presented these XPath functions that are able to invoke the AI. Well, in Oxygen, you could tap into them from XML refactoring. So the classic XML refactoring that it is within Oxygen that allows you, to parse the large file and to break it into multiple sections, and maybe have a little bit of AI help along the pipeline. I would like to know if validation can be done based on a custom DTD. Well, I guess this is something that could be again described in the context. Anyway, the validation that Oxygen performs on the output generated by the AI is done using the DTDs configured within Oxygen. So if you have configured Oxygen, to use your custom DTDs, you have the specialization in the DITA Open Toolkit being used inside Oxygen. then Oxygen will use your TTD when it validates the output generated by the AI to make sure the AI uses your specialized elements or restrictions. On the other hand, I would put those instructions into the context from the preferences, so that every time there's an interaction with the AI will know, to use those. Can Positron help with the CSS? Are there tutorials to learn about this topic? Well, in theory, yes. I don't think we've explored that much, but the large language models have been trained on the entire internet, which means they've seen an abundance of CSS rules. And yeah, it should help you with the CSS as well without any.
We do not have any predefined action related to.
No, but you do have the chat. So you have the chat.
You do have the chat, and
you can ask there.
Exactly.
The chat will have access to the current file, and so it should
be able to do that. Yeah.
Help. I heard that searching for a similar content from the repository to check if the existing topic can be reused is possible. Is that right? So I'm not sure if I understand the question. I heard that searching. So maybe you can write us an email afterwards, and we can further refine the question. Is the term checker available for web author? Well, not yet, but if you're interested in it, maybe, who knows, maybe we'll allocate some resources for it. Okay, so that's all on the question side. Aline, do you want to take it over?
Yes, I will take the share screen. Big thank you to Alex for helping us with your questions and for very in-depth questions and answers session. And of course, big thank you to Soreen for always being a great presenter and guiding us through this great session. So thank you, Soreen. And of course, I want to remind you again that the recording for this presentation will be made available in the following days, maybe as soon as tomorrow. Here you can see our upcoming events, because next week, next Wednesday on the 11th of June, I will be joined by Christian Talot, as he will present Beyond Review, Meet Oxygen Content Fusion, your AI-enabled DITA CMS, because this session will be a great introduction to the expanded capabilities of Oxygen Content Fusion, which now functions as a full-featured web-based DITA CMS. So Content Fusion supports the entire documentation lifecycle with structured authoring, Git-based version control, AI-assisted refinement via the Oxygen AI Positron Assistant, and publishing features. So don't miss our next session. And of course, you have the link below to our events page, where you can see what other events are being scheduled, and of course, where you can meet the Oxygen XML team in person at the next conferences. So reaching the end.
Aline,
yes.
Sorry to interrupt you, but I know the answer to that question.
Yes, of course.
So a short interlude. So yes, so within Oxygen, we do have, within Positron, we do have a function that is able to search the reusable components for one that matches, for example, a selected paragraph.
It's the same. It's the function that is actually used by the reuse component action.
Yes, and
The one
yes,
that I
and
demo.
it's based on the on the DITA reusable components that you see within Oxygen. So we detect the warehouse topics within the DITA map, those topics that contain reusable components and are referenced using the processing role resource only. So yeah, we will search within those and find a match. Back to you, Alin.
Perfect. I hope the audience member that asked the question stuck with us until the very end. And again, thank you for all the information that you both presented. And this leaves me to say bye-bye to everyone and have a nice evening or day, depending on your time zone. Bye-bye.